Hey guys, welcome to episode 26 of season 4. Two guys in hockey talk. Back at you. Hope you got your bevy. Hope you got your snack because Pavel and I got a full show to talk all about your favorite stuff all around hockey. What's been happening in your world there, Pavel the cat?
I'm chasing my toddler around, or my baby around. He's a toddler pretty much to me because he's going everywhere, and I'm chasing him around. So I'm clearly getting my exercise, which I need with all the beers that I've been consuming. So I'll take it. But welcome, everyone. It's been exciting. It's episode 26 of season 4. Two guys, remember to give us a follow every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. You can follow Evan at Revenev on Twitter. You can have arguments with him about everything. And we're connected with Sports Empire for all your sports need. Give him a follow. Give him a like. Evan, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I like to also throw a big shout out there to one of our new sponsors that we now have over at JR Web Designs. Now, if you're listening over at JR Web Designs, I haven't got your domain information. It's been a busy, crazy week. My apology to get started. So they're sitting ready to get going. We're looking forward to it. We are, just a heads up, if you like writing around hockey, it doesn't have to be NHL. It could be anything around it. We are going to be setting up a writer's page. So on there, if you have interest in writing, people can come follow a whole bunch of different articles. So if you always dreamed of blogging or want an opportunity, we're going to get it to you. As well as, I'd like to also mention that we are going to be able to put all of our former guests. So any of the information that they share will be on there. So yes, thanks to JR Web Designs, our website coming up soon. And like you said, right here on StreamYard, coming at you from all the different social media, we're able to do it through the Sports Empire Network. So what's up, all of our boys and girls over at the Sports Empire? If you want to follow wrestling, man, they cover everything except hockey, and that's why they brought us in. And I believe they got some new people interested and might have started on some more hockey over at the Sports Empire. So great stuff, man. Great stuff. Hey, can I talk about something? You were talking about our earlier here about our Twitter handles. So Your Twitter handle is at hockey_2. Yeah. And we specifically, I have been trying to get people to follow you. I have offered a free guest on our show. So, all right, let me explain this. I'm actually having fun with this, guys. So Pavel, remember, he's an Instagram cat, right? You know, so that's been his thing. We've got him over to the Twitter world where he can tweet away in the Twitter wars. Actually, he's much more generous and much more kind than I am on Twitter. So if you like a light, mild, and information and different opinion, follow at hockey_2. If you like controversy, you like to argue. If you like to get some different opinions and takes, and if you like me to hashtag bad take on your site, then just follow me, man, and I'll light up the show. I just want everyone to know, no matter what we do on there, hey, we just believe that in hockey, be respectful, and that's the biggest thing. So part of that I wanted to bring up actually right now is because of the fact that I have a little bit of a rant that I want to share. Is that okay?
Do it up.
Okay.
Do it up.
Okay, so let's get started right away. Hi, guys. I haven't got a chance to look in the comments. I'm going to look in there in just a minute. I got a rant to start this show off right now. Armchair GMing. I feel like too many people have been on EA Sports NHL. And because they've been franchise moding and running franchises, they think they know what they're talking about. For example, do you ever find how they think that they can have $150 million cap space when they want to trade players? Oh, why don't we trade for so-and-so? He only makes $7 million. First of all, there's called the internet. Go to it. It's called Cap Friendly. Go find out how much their cap is. It's not 7. We had someone saying, Erik Karlsson, $7 million. And I thought they meant with a trade and taking. No. That's how much they thought he gets paid. And they're going on making these wild ideas. And he makes $11.5 million, man. Go on Cap Friendly, check it out. As well as, hey, check stats. Go on Elite Prospects. Give them a follow. Check it out for different stuff. Now, I have somebody I followed back in the day. I don't know if you followed him much, his career. He didn't really get on social media till he's kind of wrapped up his career more over in Europe and stuff like that. But the guy I followed was Robbie Schremp. You know, the old lacrosse move. When he was drafted by Edmonton, there was all this talk about him being a bad boy, all this stuff. And he has recently, give him a follow at Robbie Schremp on Twitter. He's giving it to people left and right, and he don't care. He's called out Robin Brownlee. He's called out some different guys for articles that they've written about him that have actually caused issues on teams and people believing the media, as well as he evaluates a lot of what's going on in games. And there's a guy that now there's several of them, but one guy in particular, I'm looking and I'm saying, hashtag bad take. He has the audacity, first of all, to never have really laced up the skates and say that, hey, man, you sucked as a pro. Well, first of all, just because he only had a handful of games in the NHL, I do want you to realize something, that he played in his career. Let me make sure I have my stats in front of you here before I actually mention this specifically as we get into this here. Okay, so Robbie Schremp, he has played. You guys ready? He has played 12 years pro. 12 years. He's played in Denmark. He's played in Switzerland. He's played in the KHL. He's played in Sweden. He's, of course, played in North America. He's played in the AHL and some in the NHL. By the way, before you say how terrible his career was, I want you to know he was a .47 points per game in the NHL, even for the little amount of games he had. Way better than guys that are still in there. There was a whole bunch of other reasons, and it had a lot to do with how he was thrown under the bus. I feel for the guy. The guy's an amazing player. I think he's going to end up as a coach in the future. But if you're thinking, you notice I'm still on my rant here. If you're thinking, I'll let you have a rant. I'm sure you always have one. If you're thinking, oh, just because he played some in the NHL doesn't make him any good. Okay, what about Bruce Boudreau? He played some pro. Now, is he okay coaching or GMing? What about Ken Holland? He played pro. Is he okay? Now, I know some of you don't think he is, but what do they know about hockey, right? They sucked as a pro. You know how many coaches and GMs and development coaches and stuff, they never could make it? There was a lot of players that couldn't make it. And by the way, if you're going, my last piece, I promise, if you're going to call a guy out like Robbie Schremp and say all he did was play in the WHL, you idiot. He played in the Ontario Hockey League, which is a part of the Canadian Hockey League, which the WHL is a part of. Get your facts straight or it means nothing. It was a hashtag bad take. I'm so sick of these guys. Get your facts right if you're going to actually start putting stuff out there. Man, oh man.
You've got a bit of the comment section going about it, so I don't know if you want to follow up.
Okay.
Definitely playing in the NHL is a big deal to get to that level itself, and even playing one game in the NHL makes you an elite player. Now, playing more, of course, you know, the value that players put into playing multiple games and having that Iron Man-like streak, or playing it, you know, 100 or even 1,000 games, right? Like that's a big deal for players. So
exactly,
you know, I feel where you're coming from. I think sometimes fans are so passionate about the game that they want to really just impose their own personification of what it would be like if they played and how they would play. But there's so much that goes behind the scenes that sometimes you don't realize that there's more to the game. So what does Ray like say? Don't waste your breath. People will never understand the business side of the game. And it's true. And it's not just a business where you're making a transaction player for player, player for pick, player for that. It's also staying within the cap, making sure that you, that you have good chemistry, that it doesn't, mess with the room that you have. You know, you saw it with Toronto in the first few games when they got back after the trade deadline, you know. Elias here is saying Robbie didn't suck. He didn't have the hockey IQ to play the game in a team strategy. The most amazing hands you have ever seen, but lack team commitment. Your thoughts, Evan?
And so I appreciate it, but what I can't tell you is I do know a little bit more behind the scenes, and his team game was top notch. The problem is trying to fit in without, and he does mention this, his foot speed. He talked about it was horrible. And at the time, the speed game was picking up, which is absolutely right. And it was kind of like Andrew Cogliano. He believed he was a top 6. Robbie Schremp was a top 6 all day long, which is the reason he didn't want to play the lower numbers. And he still did have a 0.47 points per game in the limited time that he was in there, man. So, I do appreciate that. I'd say that I don't agree on that quote when it comes to the hockey IQ to play a team. Now, I know you're saying IQ in a team. He was very much team. And in fact, I've actually heard several people that played with him in junior and some that played with him in the AHL and some over in Europe. And they've actually been very supportive of his team games. So that's just my take. You know what? You might actually now. What do you call yourself again? There, I'm just pull his name up here.
It's Elias.
I love it, man. Doug okay,
so I
Doug Okay. Elias,
He's
no.
Asking whether I know what's better. Am I better at ball hockey or am I better at my hockey IQ? And I said neither. So it's a trick question.
Hey, Zell, no problem. I'm sure that Pavel's got an equally good rant that he's going to pull up at some time here. So
it's not more of a rant, but we'll get into it a little bit. And I know Key's joining us. So hey, Key, how you doing? Good to see you.
Hey, Key. Yo, we're going to talk also about Boston. We're going to talk about Philly. We're going to talk about juniors and draft. We got so much bloody stuff to talk about. I'm ready for this. You got it?
So let's talk about Chuck Fletcher and it being the big news that the Flyers organization and getting rid of him.
Well, you didn't pop the drink, man. I need to grab my bevy.
I've already been drinking. This is the problem. You're
That's because I was ranting. Okay, where are we going?
Chuck Fletcher and why did the organization decide to fire the GM now? To me, it seems pointless and boneheaded, given that they believed that they were going to be competitive this year and that somehow they could potentially get into the playoffs with John Tortorella. Clearly, that didn't work out. Daniel Briere is interim GM, most likely could be GM, hasn't been decided. And so we're going into this thinking, what will the Flyers do? Are they going to retool? Are they going to sell off? Like, they didn't do much at the deadline. I don't think they were winners, quote unquote, because sometimes you don't always see the return right away. But at the end of the day, like, what are you guys doing? And I knew that he made some bad choices with the signings that he had. And the big one is Rasmus Ristolainen signing. That was silly and unnecessary, right? And, like, what is it that they were doing? Claude Giroux was a separate issue. I get it. He only wanted to go to Florida. He was hand-tied in sending him there. He got Owen Tippett there, but I don't know. I don't know what Philly is doing, and I know if you guys want to really get into the inside knowledge of Philly, go check out Jamie Baskow. He's got great insight. Just celebrated his 40th birthday. But
way to go, Jamie.
Very nice. But they have some young prospects coming up, but they have some dead contracts, And again, Ellis, injured, probably not going to ever play again.
Yeah. Couturier's looking good. Couturier is back on the ice, skating, hoping to get in it.
He may be back next year, but they're missing him, and he can score at least 30-plus goals.
No. They are working. Him and his doctors are working to be able to get in 4 to 7 games before the end of the year. So he can start getting the feel of the game. There was a report that was put out. Jamie's been following it too. If you guys want to follow a little bit more on that. So, hey, can I ask you, did you say Briere, they're looking at interim, or you mean looking?
No, he is interim. They're looking at him as being potential GM.
Yeah, I was like, what? Okay, let's go there for a moment then around Philly. So, Key, if you're still with us, let's talk a little Philly then, definitely, right? Let's just kind of mention kind of what's actually happening over there. I don't want to get in a rant about this with people on Twitter. I said something to someone. I said, expect Kevin Hayes to actually get. Now, there was a talk of a potential deal. It fell through. So he didn't get moved at the last moment. That's all on Fletcher, because you can't make those decisions last minute. Otherwise, you're just going to run out of time. But I did say, watch for him to be moved with a conditional pick at the draft so that someone could pick him up for signing rights. And they argued with me. Oh, why would someone want to why would you trade someone that's already going to be a UFA? For signing rights. Well, why would you do that for Kevin Hayes? It's just like, are you an idiot? Do you not understand how this works? And I don't really mind calling people that when they're totally rude in their little, like, instead of having a conversation. I have great conversations back and forth with people, but if you're going to be an idiot on Twitter, then I'm going to call you out on my podcast.
So there's been a bit of a Twitter firestorm in the last little bit, because as in a separate thing that has just happened, and Ray just brought this up, about Danny Briere's kid, Carson Briere, who plays.
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
A wheelchair. There's a video of this at some party.
Yep. Someone with a physical disability.
Upstairs. Nobody was in it. Now, people need to be very cautious, because some of the articles are very silly. Like, he pushed, someone in a wheelchair down the stairs, and that's completely false. The person was not in the wheelchair. It was just the actual wheelchair itself down the stairs. Of course, this is being highlighted as, well, that's not bad. It's bad behavior. It's not the best. How could you do that? There's takes like it's just boys being boys, etc. All I'm going to say is that this is being magnified because of the role that Danny Briere right now has as his role in Philly. And so he is being scrutinized because he is being interviewed for this position. Yeah. What his son did was stupid. It's not the best idea. Let's move on.
Carter Briere.
Yeah. He made a mistake, and let's move on, right?
You know what? I don't agree. I'm going to say I have a different take. What do you mean, let's move on? Let's move on from Danny. This has nothing to do with Danny, the GM. It has nothing to do with Danny, the father. This is a 23-year-old idiot who is drinking too much, working with his buddies, and I don't think we should let it go. We don't let bullying go by, right? We had a big issue about bullying. Everybody talked about it. I think this guy needs to be scrutinized like everybody else for their man. Hang on here. Should I just throw in this piece here because I'm on another rant? Let's just see if there we go. Evan's on another rant. So if you're going to scrutinize someone for bullying disabled people at school or pushing them around, if you're going to take a person that has a physical disability and take their chair and be an idiot, that could cost them $1,000 to $2,000, that chair. You don't have a clue. You just think that you're used to going to the hospital and having a chair sitting for you when you go in for your little poor leg when you have a bruise. Listen, Carter, you deserve everything you get, and I hope it keeps at it, and I hope it affects his career just like it does other players. Because if you're going to do it to one, you do it to it all, and I don't think we should blow this thing over. I don't think we should forget about it. But yes, you are right. Let's not make up stories that somebody was in the chair. That's stupid.
But what I was implying, and I'm not taking away from the behavior that he did, because he should know better. What I was saying is that there's always more to the story. So it's easy in the media to get caught up, and we've seen this in several stories where it's like a quick snapshot of this is what's happening and this is what's going on, right? Oh, okay, so there you go. Ray is indicating the wheelchair was there because the girl had to be carried down the stairs to use the bathroom. I did not know that. Not all the stories reported it. Each story that I kind of checked out, it's had a few different variations. Oh. So again, you have to be very, very conscientious and cautious about what's being reported. Yeah. So is it acceptable behavior? No. Yeah. But what I'm
saying it's not his first mistake either. Ray wrote that it's not his first mistake, and he's saying that he got booted from ASU for something similar. So hey, I didn't even know that, man. That stuff I will look into. Yeah. So
it clearly upsets some people, right? And we have to be conscientious that it affected him. Well, there you go, Ray or Evan. Ray's with you on this one.
Hey, Ray, I should have called.
I'm saying,
I know.
I think there's more to the story than there was. And I get it that a wheelchair can be expensive. Yeah. They're very pricey, and that this person needed it. But I don't know the relationship that this person had with this wheelchair. So
I guess I don't
want to make any assumptions.
I just want to put that up there with bullying, right? That kind of move.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's like, well, he was drunk. Well, he was this. Then everybody always has a reason to excuse. Well, then don't get so drunk if you can't act, and use your brain a little bit. Then maybe have 1 or 2 less shots, 5 less beers, whatever it may be.
That's a problem within the hockey world, but that's a whole other.
Okay, so I actually got this a little earlier. It was sent in my text box from Zilstra. She had brought it up to me, so I went and looked it up. The Q. If you do not know who the Q is the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Remember the WHL and OHL? They are all a part of the CHL, which is the Canadian Hockey League. And so anyway, this was interesting. And so your buddy here, leave it to the French to not want to fight. So let me give you, I actually went and I pulled up a part of the article because I was very interested. So it came out of the Hockey News. I want to mention the write-up. This is what it says, and then we can talk about it. It says they're planning to have a rule in place that will ban fighting, making it black and white that it is no longer a part of our game. The spokesperson said on behalf of the league. The punishments have not been decided as yet. We will be looking to have a rule in place in June when the next annual assembly of members of the Board of Governors take place. Past reports said the punishment would include match penalties for the players involved, with an exception if one of the combatants is an instigator. But those reports were premature because, according to the league, there are multiple options currently. One of the things is, and of course, this is not going to take place till the beginning of next season if they do get it to be moved. And it says this move has been pushed by Enrico Sacconi, who is a Liberal member of the Quebec's National Assembly and a former NHL enforcer who previously had 85 fights in 374 NHL games. So if you go to his hockey fights, you can actually, he's been vocal about wanting to change this in where he is as a politician. So I do think that this merits a little bit more conversation, because you're talking about a tough guy who was an enforcer, who did fight and went through stuff and is now in Parliament, which is you could tell he didn't get knocked too hard. He's in Parliament. He was smart enough to get in, and you do have to be smart. You got to find your way to get in there. So, I don't agree. I don't like this move. But I will say that hats off to him for going ahead and starting to represent others. So what's everybody else's take? What's your take? And then we'll see what everyone else is saying.
I hate agreeing with you, Evan, but I think it's silly to completely ban fighting in QMJHL because, guys want to protect themselves. Sometimes things get out of hand, and it just you don't take it out. Now, my question is how will they enforce this? Right? They're thinking of penalties and fines and whatever that's going to look like, but how do you enforce it in the game when something goes wrong? And how do you separate guys who get into a scrum? Or is body checking still going to be allowed? If what level of hitting, right? They've talked about hitting over the years and how some people want to get rid of it, which is silly. You're never going to get rid of it. Now, you can take steps to reducing it, which you have seen from the 80s, from the 70s to what it is now. It's completely changed, right? And they are working on making the game more about skill and speed. That being said, if you're coming in, and maybe you're coming in from Europe and you want to play in Quebec for a bit because you will have that opportunity, or you're coming in from somewhere else in Canada or the States and you have this opportunity and you've learned to hit and you're not going to hit, it's how do you take that out of your DNA? It's second nature, right? How do you change that game? And then only to go into the next level, whether you're going to the AHL or you're going to the Swiss League or Swedish League, and then everyone else is hitting and you're not hitting, and you're like, well, what do I do, right? How do I protect myself, right? Or what if somebody gets out of line, or somebody who's an agitator? You want agitators in the game, right? Or do you not want to anymore? So I think this is a little bit extreme. I know they've talked about it before in Quebec, but I don't know how they're going to enforce this. And I don't know how this is going to impact the rest of the league in terms of how the game is played, right? So,
And so, I'll tell you one of the concerns. I get it. I respect the fact of what they're fighting for. I do understand the fighting part and the dangers of it, of all the people who've worked through. So here's my thing, though. The Quebec, so say they're not going to do it. This will affect drafting players out of the Quebec Junior Major Hockey League for the NHL. And it will, and here's why, because if they have players that are not used to being tough and rough in that, now they may still be tough, but if they haven't actually done that kind of stuff, maybe it doesn't affect them. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think that this will become, I'm spitting here while I'm talking. I'm so excited. I do think that what's going to happen in the end is if they want to take fighting out of the game, it must be at the experimental level, which is always the American Hockey League. Yes. They have to test it in the American Hockey League for a year before it can move. So if you could say the East Coast Hockey League, who is the farm system of the AHL as well, and working, if those two leagues could experiment with it, maybe, and there will be a change, and it's going to be hard to make that change. But here's my thing, man. already, because of how the fighting, referees are not calling the calls. We don't have time to talk about the ref thing. It's every week. But because they're not, players, I sent a link out on my Twitter. If you want to follow me at Rev and Ev, and you can go back to some of my tweets. I sent out about people who stick work, like guys like Brad Marchand and stuff. They actually whack hands and cross-check, and they actually hurt people with their sticks. And they're constantly using them like weapons. And the reason is if they don't get the penalty called, they're going to go back and do something. We see it. Every game now I watch. I turn on a game. It doesn't matter who's playing. I see someone using their stick as a weapon. It's barely being called. And there's a little hook on the hand, and they're calling it. But they don't call these whacks. There's four people on the ice.
After a few times. It's 1, 2, 3. So prime example was the Oilers Toronto game where Willie Desharnais was cross-checking and moving John Tavares out of the way,
and it was hard.
Tavares took it onto Holland and whacked him in the arm, and it was an exposed area, which of course caused some discomfort for Desharnais. He got fined, but again, it's and I know Zylstra said fighting, not hitting, but that's how it leads to one thing. It's not like what's it called? Fighting just automatically starts, right? Maybe there's a scrum in front of the net and there's some pushing and shoving, and like I get it that like when there's a fight and you're throwing down your gloves and you're ready to go and there's a intent to box a little bit, but in other times it has to lead up to that. There's some animosity, there's some hate, right? And are you gonna remove that also from the playoffs where there's a heightened level of play where players know they have to go into battle? So it's definitely an intriguing thing. We'll definitely watch the story. We'll keep close eye on it, but I don't know how you can enforce this long term and be successful as a league.
So here you guys bring up a good point here for our listeners. How do the players police the game? And then Ray has an answer he puts in here. You have to put your faith on the on-ice officials, which is the problem. And I'm going to say on-ice officials, they maybe, for example, linesmen got to be able to call everything as well as the referee. They're going to have to find a way to allow more instead of having on a call because you got four people for a reason. If you're going to clog up the ice, use them more. But unfortunately, what do you do to police the game when the officials aren't helping you, right? And I know Zylstra writes in here as well. She's saying here, she's going, they're trying to ban fighting, not hitting. Here's the problem with hitting. Two things. The game is so fast. If you go to hit people and focus on hitting, you're going to take yourself out of the play and very well cost your team. So it's really tough to do that. And then the other part is most of the hitting, I've seen so many people get fined, or like if you're a big guy like Desharnais, or if you're big like someone like Chara, you get penalties a lot because the guy's small and they go, oh, he hit him in the head. His stick was at his rib level, bottom of his ribs, and he hit the guy in the head who's bent down, and so that's the problem there. And then the other problem we're having, and we can go to the Board of Governors and talk about that, is they're getting frustrated because every time there's a clean hit, and I know Zylstra, you'll agree with this one, every time there's a clean hit, it's like you have to pay the price for a clean hit. Everyone gets mad at a clean hit. Well, you got to keep your heads up. And by the way, since I'm mentioning that, I got to go on and talk to you guys about something. Here's my little promo. Guys, last week we had Sports Plus on, and they have this excellent device. It's called a Heads Up Stay Safe. And so you'll see the little protection barrier on this. This is our prize giveaway. If you weren't following last week, this is going on for the month of March. What you need to do is you need to go in to our website. Pavel, can you type that into the chat? Type 2guyshockeytalk@gmail.com for us.
Sure,
so you email us at 2guyshockeytalk@gmail.com, and your name will enter in at the end of the month to win one of these. Now, this neck device, what you'll notice is you cannot put your head down to always be looking at the puck. It's a great invention to train people with muscle memory to be able to keep your head up and still work with your puck skills because everyone's working that way. So, yeah, awesome. Thanks. I'm just going to put it up there for you guys to be able to see. So just go ahead and send it over to us at 2 Guys Hockey Talk, and we will put your name in. Okay, so let's talk about the governor's meetings on this instigator. How do you think this is going to go? It's a discussion. They've had some roundtables. sounds like a lot of GMs are kind of tired of their players having to get into a fight just because of a clean hit.
Yeah, again, it comes back to the whole, like, there's a bit of a unspoken culture on the ice, when you're playing, that you protect the guy, especially if it gets hit, especially if it's somebody who may not be able to protect himself, is smaller, or is a superstar, or is somebody that's valuable to the team, and if they get involved, they're gonna throw some hits, and some punches. So at the end of the day, it's hard. Again, it's like the fighting. How do you enforce it? How do you get it going? Because I understand from a GM's perspective, you're trying to protect your assets. As Ray mentioned earlier, there's a business side, and players are assets for these organizations. And you want a Jack Hughes for Devils who's a bit smaller, or a Quinn Hughes for Vancouver, smaller guys who can take a hit, but sometimes it's harder. Or just more recently, Draisaitl's hit on Chychrun. We know Chychrun's history of injury. Do you want Chychrun, who in Ottawa Senators' eyes, you just acquired, and you want to make a good run, or you want to push for meaningful games, and now your guy is injured and out, and you're missing that key piece in your top four. So it's definitely going to be discussion, but like with everything else, it takes a while for it to be enforced and implemented, and like you indicated, into the AHL to get going. So we may not see the impact of this for at least maybe 3 to 5 years, right? Who knows? Because we talked. What we talked about a couple of years back on our show in season 2 and 3? We talked about cross-checking and how they're gonna enforce that, and they were penalizing people in the preseason, and they were going and going. And has it happened? It's gone down in terms of cross-checking penalties that you see. It still happens when you're in the corner in the offensive zone and you see defensemen just cross-checking them in the back, and it's 3, 4, 5, and then maybe the 6th one, the ref will say, okay, get off, or blow a whistle, and it's like, if the puck isn't out. So, again, it's one of those things where, like, I get where the GMs are coming from, but I think there's bigger fish to fry with the NHL. So I don't know. Your thoughts?
Let me just go to a couple of the comments again. So another one of the comments: I played good hockey. I wouldn't trust an official to protect me from a gnat at barbecue. Okay, that's fair. What do you raise in here? To be fair, in real time, it's hard to tell most times if it's a clean hit or not. I absolutely agree with the speed of the game. It's become now, and that's why I believe that the linesmen need to be able to call everything that a ref calls. I really do. So
you guys, you know who you should watch for, like, a very good case study for whether it's a clean hit or not, and very divisive in the NHL's eyes? Jacob Trouba, the captain of the New York Rangers. Any hit that guy throws, you could say it's clean, or you could say it's not clean. And that is, like, hands down one of the most divisive players in terms of physicality. Whether last year he hit Sidney Crosby in the playoffs when they played, and whether it was clean or not, or recently versus Calgary when he knocked down Kadri, and then of course, who was it? I think who came to his aid to try to fight, So, but again,
well, and I like this, what Ray says. If there's any question, guys on their team are going to go protect their line mate. And you're right. But it's interesting because the instigator rule, and this has been a bit of the talk now too, because the instigator rule used to be, if, like, for example, if someone hits somebody and you run in to defend them and try to pick a fight with them, even if they fight with you, you're supposed to get the extra penalty. But now people, just because you throw a glove down to go fight them, because you want to be prepared so you don't get hit too early. And so they're preparing themselves, and sometimes guys aren't getting the instigator, which I personally don't care, but I do think that they're trying to take, this is what I believe. I think the NHL has saw too many hits, people getting hurt. So I think they're trying to take hitting partially out of the game. More people. This was an interesting stat that I got from Kyle Rossiter, who was a former guest who had been drafted, I think it was 24th overall to Florida years ago. And one of the things that he talked about, more people, even though he'd be okay with banning the fighting because it's not really what he wanted to do. More people are injured permanently and are hurting in their future by hits on the ice more than by punches to the head. But punches to the head get more recognized because it's like barbaric per se. But you know what? It's kind of barbaric to be hitting people like that, because a bare fist in a ring, even like a bare knuckle contest, is nothing than me on ice at 50 to 70 kilometers an hour, crushing you into a board. I mean, and so I really, I'll tell you what I would rather see: open ice hits.
Yeah.
I'd rather see open ice hits. And I'm sorry, but you got to keep your head up. Like the device that our folks at Sports Plus built. Guys like Eric Lindros, he just took it for granted. He was a big guy, and he never thought he'd get hit. Now, some of that is illegal hits now today, granted. Yeah. But I know Zylstra and I have had talks off air and talking about stuff like, what happened to the good old hip check? Never happens, barely. Right? And a lot of times a hip check turns out to be a penalty for you. You know, if a guy's coming in, you should be able to take them out.
The one thing that I've always wondered about, and you see it sometimes, and I saw it this past year, I think it was, or maybe it was last season, Buffalo versus Toronto, and it was a hit being thrown. I believe it was TJ Brody or Timothy Liljegren, one of their defensemen, against Rasmus Sandin. And Rasmus Sandin actually avoided the hit by skating away or like turning around in a manner. And you wonder why players won't just avoid hits. Would that change the complexion of how they're seen in the game, right? Is there a perception out there? So, because players can avoid hits, and I've seen players avoid hits when sometimes, you're trying to clear the puck in your zone and someone's coming at you just to, complete a check, which as coaches like to see. But maybe that player moves out of the way and you're just hitting the boards by yourself, which again may injure you, but you went to throw that hit. So
I just noticed in our comment section. So just so you guys know, Ray is a New Jersey Devils fan. And my comment on Scott Stevens' hit with an illegal hit on Lindros, he would be today an illegal hit. He says, I don't know anyone who illegally hit Eric. But then we get, no, not a single guy. Same with Korea, meaning Paul Korea of the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah.
And then you guys are just going back and forth. Hey guys, thank you for entertaining us a little bit. So,
well, and if I recall, when Korea was interviewed about that incident that happened, he doesn't even remember getting back on the ice and playing, but he ended up assisting in the goal, wasn't it? So
I don't remember that. Yeah, that's pretty good memory for a young guy.
Well, I try, but again, like it's one of those things where the adrenaline is rushing. You don't know what's going on, and as you talked about concussions, they have more of a severe impact that you can see visibly on people, whereas like a hip check or an injury to the body sometimes isn't as visible and isn't as prevalent. It's more like slow, gradual, chronic pain where you may not see it right away, and the people feel it later on. So. Again,
there you go.
He scored it. Yeah, he scored it. There you go.
Yeah, you're gonna get Ray going now.
I am. Yeah. It's been a while. Okay.
Oh man. Okay, let's. There was one thing mentioned earlier here. Yes, Ray was mentioning no discussion around the playoff format. Yeah, and if you remember, Ray, it was talked about by Gary Bettman. Says why? It works great. It works great. Sorry, that's my mimicking of Gary Bettman, which will never come on the show anyway.
Never say never.
Well, maybe he'll come on to correct me. But yeah, I know Sportsnet and ESPN and Bally Sports, and a lot of them have been having these discussions on their panels and stuff. Well, Gary acts like it's not a big deal. But remember, Gary's been the one kind of helping Arizona with their team for over 20 years, right? Kind of keeping things in place. So Gary is who Gary is. I don't think nothing's going to change.
He's made the owners richer. That's all that matters to them.
And Gary is not going to change the playoff format as long as Gary Bettman is there. It'll have to be someone different. Frankly, again, I will say this, as I say often, I think the issue, first round of playoffs are the best time of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You know why? Yeah. Because there's upsets. Because there's teams that are getting taken out, and then the lower team is actually winning, and now they don't have to play the big juggernaut now because they're already knocked out, who they probably would have lost to. early on. If you think about even Edmonton back in 06, when they came in and took out the Detroit Red Wings, they took them out, then got through on the San Jose Sharks, which by the way, Rafi Torres would have been an illegal hit also in today's standards. That was one of the things that knocked Torres kind of out of the NHL. It's just because of the type of hitting it was all legal at that time. But yeah, no, that's not going to change. I think it should be a one. I personally like 1 versus 16 and 2 versus 15 because then the best teams actually are rewarded. No, I don't want East-West. I'd say get rid of all that like it was. Okay. But it was a 21 team league when they had 1 versus 16. Yeah. And they're not going to do that with 32 teams. I know that. So it would be a 1 versus 8. And a lot of times it's, Gary's answer was, well, you know what? If you look right now, 1 versus 8 is the same as 1 versus 4, or crossing over or whatever it would be, and it's like, okay, well then why don't you change it to 1 versus 8 and 2 versus 7? Just do it that way and don't worry about your divisions. And to say that it's going to help I'm just ranting all night, man. I just realized that. But to say it's going to help division, man, you have Edmonton and Calgary playing in an 82-game season 3 times. Don't talk to me about divisional rivalry. Make that 6 games or 7 games, or if you want to build rivalries within local areas of teams like the Rangers versus the Cat, or the Capitals and the Penguins, or the Penguins and the Flyers, make them fight minimum 5 games. Frankly, this is how I think they should do it. They should have you play every team a home and an away, and then you take the rest of the games and you play it in division. That's what I think. Okay. Not my thoughts.
Nope, fair. What do you guys think you do? Should there be a format that's 1 versus 8 or is it 1 versus 16?
Sorry, I didn't see some of the stuff going on here. What are we talking about? Korea who? And then we got you guys going on off the floor, on the board. Paul Korea, probably the best goal call. Oh yeah, that was a really good one. I forgot about that one. Whatever, Korea came back and scored the game-winning goal. Okay, we got all your stuff there. Just making sure I got. Don't know who would complain about that.
I was wrong. Is that what people want to hear? I was wrong.
Okay. What's this, Zill? EP40 does reverse hit. I'm not sure who that is, Zill. Who you're referring to? I'm kind of lost on. I feel like this is. You know how everyone takes nicknames and
Elias
they put them
Pettersson?
into.
Is that who I'm thinking of?
40 does reverse hit. Is that Elias Pettersson? Is he number 40?
I can't remember what number he is.
What is this? Devils play Lightning 3 times this week. Makes no sense. Yeah, and back to back. What's with that? Way too many times. And right now, at a crucial time in their playoff, when they're fighting for that, yeah, Elias Pettersson.
Yeah.
Yes, he's 40. Oh, okay, Zill. Now I know who you're talking about. There we go. Yeah, we got it.
See, I knew.
They are the information givers today. Okay, let's make a slight change here. I just want to make mention, but can I give a strange fact? How many people remember the Cleveland Crusaders? You guys remember the Cleveland Crusaders or heard about them previously that were in the NHL for a short period of time? Well, before they became in the NHL, they were a part of what was called the World Premier Major Hockey League. That's what they were a major part of. And then that was back in 1972. And then later on, they went and they joined into the NHL. They moved their team over. So I found that was an interesting story. But let's come back to a couple things here. I want to mention, if you guys hang on to a little bit more in the end, we're going to talk about the NHL draft, who potentially is going to go where. And we're going to talk about Bedard, Fantilli, and 2 more other players. But right now, can we talk about the NHL trade deadline? Now, sure. Ray, you're going to want to stick around and hear about this one. Now, tell me, just off the top of your head, who do you see? Now, I think it's fair to say who were the winners and losers at this point, not on the day of when they were traded. So who do you see?
As of today?
Yeah, so these players are between 5 and 8 games in already, right?
Right.
And so just from what you've heard or what you've seen, what are you thinking right now? Like, are you seeing someone who's doing better since the trade that they've excelled. You consider them a winner. So who do you got?
First off, I think that Boston trade for Orlov and Hathaway has been really paid off for Boston, specifically Orlov, who I believe has like 8 points in the last 5 games. Yeah. See, like he's really done well. Hathaway's been okay, but Craig Smith wasn't exactly lighting it up, so he's there now in Washington. That being said, in Washington, I mean, I know that they're kind of going through a retool, even though they don't want to rebuild with Ovechkin still, trying to compete for one more cup, even though that team is much older with Oshie and him and Carlson. But I think Rasmus Sandin, who was projected to be a top 4 defenseman and didn't really slot into Toronto, has really thrived in in Washington. And I know that, there's a lot of lacking of defense in Washington, but he's really fit into that system to really put up those points because he is an offensive defenseman. That's what he's been always projected. So I'm sure Toronto fans are going to be upset that they lost him because he's been a big filler. The other one, and I know Kane was the big fish, but I think Tarasenko playing in New York has been a real godsend for them. Like he's really benefited them, and he's really clicked with Panarin. So to have also Kane there, that's a really deadly top 6. So yeah,
interesting. Yeah, he's played 15 games because they did an early trade with him. Absolutely,
he did early trade, but he's really fit in well, given that he's had injury issues. So
yeah. Okay, Ray's saying, I think the Leafs did a fantastic job. Unfortunately, Ryan really got hurt. Yeah, so that kind of makes you a loser, though, because you gave up.
So he was gone.
No, but again, is this like because you made a smart deal, or is this how the team's going to fare? Because they gave up a lot during this draft. They gave up a lot of capital. And I'm going to say that I think Toronto are losers at this. I thought they were winners. But because the injury now and let's hope he recovers. I didn't get the latest update. Maybe Ray, you've heard it or someone else. Just before the playoffs. That they're hoping, but hand injuries can be really bad. I think it was a wrist.
Broken finger.
Yeah. Was it a finger? I thought it was a wrist. Okay. If it's a finger, it's workable. So, but here's the thing. The chemistry got messed with. They really messed with the chemistry, and that's always a difficult thing because they were doing really well. I actually felt they were winners on that day. I think as of today, right now, they're looking like I feel they're losing out, and they could have even a better record right now. So, I don't know.
Elias is also saying echo for the Oilers, and I agree. I think he's really helped Bouchard find his game and really propped up that back end. They're still letting in a few goals like the Winnipeg game and the Toronto game, but he's really stabilized and helped Bouchard. Like Bouchard needs a veteran like Duncan Keith was, right? But Ekholm has really helped the Oilers, and they may be still 1 or 2 more pieces away from really being competitive. So if they figure out their goaltending, that'll be a good thing. But
you can go back to the end of 2 seasons ago, end of season 2, and you can hear me talking and going on with Pavel about Duncan Keith. I just want to mention this. I still think it was a great trade. It turned out to be excellent. In the end, they got them to the Final Four. It helped Bouchard, and it also gave them cap space later on, which we did not know at the time, that there was a good possibility he may be retiring because there was discussion that was already happening early on. Yeah, but we didn't know that at the time. I still thought even another year, because he's just smart when he plays. But I will say Ekholm, he barely has made a mistake. That's the thing when he's out there.
He's taking away some of the responsibilities from Nurse, which allowed Nurse to play more of that offensive physical game that he likes to without playing the extra 2 to 3 minutes. So
exactly.
And Ray is mentioning that New Jersey's struggling with the chemistry right now with the Timo Meier addition. Yeah, it definitely it's been hard for them, right? And trying to find a good fit. We'll see how they do it. We'll see if even Blackwood returns or if you're going to start Vanacek in the first game, which is most likely. But, I like that team. The issue with the New Jersey Devils is they don't have a lot of players who have experience in the playoffs in the postseason. Yeah. And that's my only worry. Difficult. However, whoever they face off in the first round, whether it could be Carolina, it could be New York Rangers, it's going to be a hell of a battle, right? So I'm looking forward to that.
Interesting. And Ray, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is Meyer not playing on their second line? He's playing in the top six, generally speaking. Now, I had conversations on Twitter with people about this, especially some guys that wanted him with the Hurricanes, and they were telling me stupid and all this stuff. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, throw out names because you make so much sense. I just said that they were saved from a big contract. Now, they didn't pay the amount that they thought they would, and it's also because there was no signing for next year with it. He's playing with Hughes and Pratt. Oh, okay. Okay, thanks. No, so he's playing in the top six, moving there with Hughes and stuff. But so here's the thing. Okay, so this was what makes it sad. Now, I had my stats I just brought in a couple days ago, so unless he's played another game, let me throw out a stat here. Timo Meier has 6 games in, 1 goal and 1 assist. Yeah. 1 goal and 1 assist. He was brought in for offensive horsepower and to be a power forward, right? To be in that place. I just want to bring some attention to a deep signing that I actually thought, and so this is why I think the Oilers are winners. Not only did they get Ekholm, but they got Nick Bjugstad, who in 5 games has 2 goals and an assist. 1 game he went against Boston 10-0. I mean, you think about the deep pressure that you're able to put on 6'6" and then use on your PK with 6'7" Desharnais, as well as at 6 foot. Was it 6'6" is Ekholm or something like that? I mean, it's crazy.
6'4". 6'4".
Now, but I mean, so I'm a little concerned about Timo Meier on this. His goal last game on the feed from. Oh yeah, that was pretty nasty. To be fair. Okay, what was you saying here? To be fair, Meier has opened up lanes for other players. Okay, no, and because Ray, you watch him really diligently through, so we appreciate you bringing that up, and I will bring mention of that when I'm arguing with people. Ray, you will be my insider. So you will feed me. If you're on Twitter, follow me at Revving Ev, and then send me a DM so I can make sure to follow what you're talking about. If not, just DM me you can catch me also on Facebook. But anyway, so I think Edmonton was a big winner. Now, do you think Vancouver was a winner?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I think
you don't,
they were a winner when they got that first round pick for Bo Horvat, which, that was looming over their heads. And that really, they were able to get rid of it. But I think after trading for Philip Hronek, which I get that you want to play a top 4 defenseman to play with Quinn Hughes, but his price tag is high and he's an RFA next season. And you wonder, what is it that they're doing there? Are they retooling? Are they rebuilding? And so in my mind, you got rid of a pick where you rarely draft well, and this is a deep draft, as you're going to talk about in a bit. And I think that it was silly to do so, right? So, and I know that they've looked at OEL to get rid of, at Connor Garland, there's a few players in there that there's some questions about whether or not they want to keep them, but I don't think that they were successful. I will say, however, even though he's a -4 right now, sneaky good signing or pickup again in the trade deadline was Nino Niederreiter from for the Winnipeg Jets. He's got in 8 games 7 points. I think it was 4 goals and 3 assists, or 3 goals and 4 assists, and he's been playing on that top line. And he's got 1 more year because, as you guys know, Kevin Sheldayoff likes his players with term. And they don't know the status of Pierre-Luc Dubois, so it definitely will be interesting. The other winner, even though it's not really player-wise, is Nashville. They loaded up, and David Poile really got a lot of picks for Barry Trotz to be prepared for this deep draft. And I think Nashville could be one of those teams that can still compete for the playoffs next year, given that they have some good defense and an elite goaltender. UC Saros, man, a short goalie who's successful. And they just need some forward assistance. And I thought at the beginning of the season, Philip Forsberg would put up some goals. He's been okay. He's been injured a little bit here and there, but he hasn't produced at the level that he should have. So anyway, your thought.
I see that you're saying he's sneaky good and they're annoying. Absolutely. And I want to say, in that Ekholm trade, it was great for Edmonton. I think it was the right move. I think it was a pure hockey trade because they got Reed Schaefer, who is a first round draft pick, number 32 overall, I believe, last year for Was he 30?
32,
No, he was the
32,
last.
31,
It was 32.
One,
Because 32 teams, and they pushed back on their trade. So, but Reed Schaefer's a power forward, and that he's going to fit well into the Nashville system, as well as they will have Edmonton's. And let's just say Edmonton gets past the first round, so you're not going to get anything better than a 26 to 32, depending on where they place. So let's just say a 24. 28. So you basically get a 32 and a 28th overall. So this season, they're probably going to get something around a 14 to 17. And then they'll also have probably a 26 to 28 overall, potentially. That's not too bad in your rebuild in a really deep draft. So, okay, we're going to have to move over really quickly.
I will just say one thing for fun facts, because you threw fun facts up earlier.
Okay.
And of course, Ray says you can't forget the moves Nashville made with Eli Tolvanen and letting him go. Yeah, that was a big mistake, because Seattle has, revived his career and really made he's really made an impact there, right? And that's a very team dynamic. Ilya saying Edmonton versus LA is looking up to be the first round matchup. How do the Oilers do in that series? Well, we can talk
7
about
games.
That once we know what the actual lineup is. I don't want to but Ken Holland traded for Ekholm because the guy has term, and because he has term, he's only traded once his first round pick, and that ended up being Vasilevsky. So against for Vasilevsky. So he really was conscientious about getting a player who doesn't get injured and can come in and make an impact and still play. It wasn't a rental, even though he said he would. So,
all right, I got to quickly move because we're not going to have as much time as I had hoped with some of the other stuff. There was so much I want to talk to you guys about. I want to talk about the KHL guys. We are in the conference semifinals right now, so you are only dealing with right now 8 teams that are left in the KHL playoffs. If you're wanting to follow, you can follow Patrick Conway. He's been a former guest on our show. He's a post-Soviet sports writer who I'm hoping will actually become a writer on our page. We'll get some of his writings to come on over. But I do want to hit in on something. The NCAA Hobie Baker Honorable Award. So right now, some of the top runners are Logan Cooley, that's drafted by Arizona. Another one is Sean Farrell, Lane Hudson out of Montreal. And then we got Devon Levi, Buffalo's goaltender. Anyway, there's been a whole bunch of stuff. Now, of course, there's Adam Fantilli, who I think should be the front runner to win this between him and Logan Cooley. Now, I want you guys to notice this. He's playing with Michigan. He has 32 games, but he has 27 goals. He has really picked it up, and 60 points, almost 2 points a game playing in NCAA Division I hockey. So he has a good shot, but remember, he is going to be your number 2 overall pick. Really highly likely that's who you're going to see. So I want to mention this. Again, this was my rev starting. It's going to change year end. This is my ranking that I always put out. I see having the best careers, not where they'll be in the mock draft. Mishkov is still the second best talent I see in a career. But I do believe, and I believe Jordan had talked about this, one of our followers as well, and former guest. He's talked that he could see Arizona grabbing him because he probably is going to fall. It was funny about how many people kept telling me, he won't fall, he won't fall. Now everybody's talking about him falling because he's got a KHL contract for another 3 or 4 years, 3 years, I think. And on top of it, Russia's in a war, and no one's going to be coming over from there anytime soon with it. So Zach Benson has been playing better. Dalibor Dvorsky has been playing well. Leo Carlson could be 3rd overall this year. Okay, but let me go to flippin' freaking Connor Bedard. I feel like we're talking about Connor McDavid, literally the things that this guy does. I want you guys to realize, I'm just going to throw this out there quick, and then we're going to talk about, just take 1 minute, okay? Because we're into 2 guys in overtime now. So I want to bring to mention some specifics. Connor Bedard right now, 51 games this year. He has 61 goals. 64 assists for 125 points. He is right now in his junior career. All he needs is a 3 or a 4-point game, his next game, and he'll be over. But right now he is basically at a 2 points per game in his junior career, starting as a 15. That's 15, 16, and 17-year-old in a 19 to 21-year-old league. I mean, think that is, or 19, 20-year-old league. The guy is amassing. Now, Connor McDavid, who came out of the OHL scoring league, not more defensive like the WHL, had a 1.72 career in junior. Yeah. So, I mean, now you could say, well, look at Connor's, but I want you to catch something. Right now, Connor McDavid this season is well over 2 points per game and having a flipping good season. So all I can tell you guys is hold on, because this is going to be probably within the top 3 best draft or draft lottery, because we kind of knew ahead of time. So I guess we'll call it top 2, because when Mario Lemieux went, they already knew who was going to be drafting McDavid. It was a lottery. This will be the second best lottery. And I'm going to say, I think this is going to be more exciting than Connor McDavid's lottery. And right now, and the reason why, if we look at things right now, really, essentially, you don't have many teams right now that are in the play that are going to have much of a chance if we give them, generally speaking, right? So really, you're talking about Anaheim, Chicago, San Jose, and Columbus. And Columbus is playing themselves out of that possibility because they've been playing well lately. So,
what about Philly? The
problem with Philly is that Philly has a whole 10 points more than the last place Columbus, with only one game played more. So
I'm just trying to get Philly's hopes up after they got Danny Briere.
Well, I could see them dropping, but they're going to be competing against teams losing, like Anaheim, Chicago, San Jose, and Columbus. Maybe San Jose moves up a bit, but they don't have much to work with.
I expect, and I've had this conversation with Jordan, that he's going to go to an unexpected team, right? That you wouldn't be expecting him to go to, right? So,
you think the luck of the draw is going to put him on an unexpected team?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, this is the way I just want to have us look at this. Connor Bedard will go to the first winner of the lottery. The person who moves into second place, they're going to get Adam Fantilli, who we just talked about, who could be the Hobie Baker winner. And we're going to make our predictions later on. We're going to talk more about this. Somehow the Flames win the lottery. What about Taylor Hall's lottery? Was this exciting? Guys, I'd love to talk more.
I said back to Ilias, Taylor or Tyler, if people recall that debate.
The Taylor versus Tyler. Yeah, I remember that. Oh man, that has been so crazy. Well, guys, it's been a great show. We are already at 4 after. We have gone. This is our longest show in our history of the shows. Wow. So I don't know why when we talk we seem to take so long. Other than we're giving you guys, the fans of hockey, the ability to interact with us, and you guys throw us off. And you make us talk about stuff we didn't plan. But, hey, that's great. I had probably 5 other things to talk about, Pavel. But we're done, dude. I'm done.
Oh, man. Okay, well, so I can go on a rant now or what?
we got to go. One last thought. I'll give you 30 seconds. Count. Go.
Thanks for everyone for tuning in and for having an engaging and insightful conversation. It's been fun. We love hearing from you guys, and we hope to see you again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Remember to give us a follow on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. We love hearing from you. And off air, we like talking with you guys, and you can tell us how wrong I am about hockey and everything. I love it. Evan, back to you.
Hey, no, it's been a great one. It's been another ring-a-ding-dong-dandy in the famous words of Ed Whalen. And in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe.
And keep your heads up.
Yeah.